Hola Minecraft fans, it's Collins, and today we are going to look at oil processing from Magneticraft. So there's a couple things we got here. We have a oil prospector and a Pumpjack. And the oil prospector you use to search for oil, and then the Pumpjack you use to extract oil. And these are pretty simple to make. There's a small battery, a piece of iron, and some tungsten, and that will make you this oil prospector. You just charge it up in a Magneticraft battery, and you're good to go. And then the pump jack is made with some iron. You need a diamond drill and an electric motor, and those are pretty. There's only one diamond for the diamond drill, and the electric motor is iron, copper, and some copper coils, which is just copper and iron bar. So they're pretty easy to make. Here's the pump jack. It's actually one block, but it is it's 1, 2, 3 by 3 by 1 wide, but it's one block. And whenever you place it on the ground, it will always place with the hammerhead end towards you, and it'll be lined up in the center. And the pump jack, actually, it's going to spit items onto the ground. I wasn't able to get any sort of item piping connect to this. It spits items on the ground when it's digging for oil, and then it automatically extracts oil from the side. You can extract oil from the front too, but it automatically ejects into fluid inventory. So we get an iron pipe from the mod. You don't have to wrench this into like this blue would be suck fluid out. It doesn't have to be in the blue mode. It'll automatically eject fluids out. And then there's power in the back, and power doesn't, you can't power it from the bottom. You have to power it from the backside. And there's a couple different power. There's copper wire and this low voltage cable. Copper wire looks like this. It's floating in the air, and this low voltage cable looks like this. Copper wire looks like this on the ground. And you can see there's two connectors on the back here, so you can use either type of wiring to connect to this thing. And this is how it works. What you do is take your oil prospector and you prospect in the ground, and it'll tell you it found oil sources. Now, normally oil sources are low in the ground. In this case, we're in a creative world, so I kind of cloned an oil source. Let me show you what that actually looks like. So it's normally not at 147. Normally it'll be at really low elevations, like Y12. But this is an oil source. So what it is a vein of these oil source blocks, and it's kind of a cube. It may form in different structures. I'm not exactly sure. You can't actually mine this, not even with silk touch. It will disappear. Hey, creeper. It'll disappear if you try to mine this. So you pretty much have to extract oil from it in place. And what you do is, once you click this on the ground, now I found it near tar pit. This is tar. You want to be careful with this stuff because you'll sink into it very slowly, and you move very slowly, and you can't really jump. So I'm in creative mode. I can get out of this. You can break it with a pickaxe, and it will disappear. You can actually silk touch this tar, but there's not really any use for it. So what you do is, once you find some oil, put your pump jack on the ground, and then let's set this thing up. There isn't really a whole lot to set this thing up, and it doesn't really take a ton of power, so we can actually just use a couple of these solar panels. And they're connecting to this bottom part of the power. And like I mentioned, it does spit items out into the world, and I wasn't able to connect item conduits to it, but inserters have this pick up items from ground upgrades. You can stick an inserter next to a chest, and it should pick up the items that it spits out on the ground. And then we just have a iron pipe from the mod and some of these fluid tanks. Each of these holds 16 buckets, and you can see it starting to go. So what it does is it clears out the blocks, and you can see it spits them out on the ground, and our inserter is going to pick those up. And then it creates this concrete bar down there. And what that is it's supposed to be similar to how an actual pump jack in real life works. Stop giving me blocks. And what it's going to do is it's going to slowly build down, drill down. You can see it's creating, so it destroys the block, and replaces it, and it doesn't actually destroy the block, it actually mines them, so if there's like iron and copper and stuff, you'll get those blocks back. And then let's see what happens when it gets all the way down here. So here we go, the Pumpjack is about to hit an oil source. And once it does, it's going to start extracting oil and filling up the tanks up there. And again, we're in creative mode, and I kind of copied this out of the survival world. I found one of these in a swamp biome. Normally this is completely encased in blocks. You won't be able to see it open like this. This is just for an example to get you to show you what one looks like. But what it's going to do is these concrete posts is actually where it's pumping oil through, and it's going to slowly pull oil out of this oil source, and then the oil source will turn into a drained oil source, and then it'll move on to another block as long as there's more connected blocks within the vein of oil sources. And it will keep doing that until it has sucked all the oil out, and these are all drained oil sources. And you can use more than one pump jack if you want to, or you can just leave one going and it will slowly change all these around. We've got some fluid tanks from the mod, and we've filled these up pretty dang fast. So most likely, unless you're pumping this straight into an oil refinery, you're probably going to have to use something from another mod to get the oil to collect in this thing. Here we go. So it looks like even though there's oil sources at the top, it started at the bottom. So now what we have is, if you look at the tooltip on this, these are drained oil sources, and it's slowly turning the normal oil sources into drained oil sources as it extracts oil. So that's what it's going to do until the whole vein is dried up, and it's going to continue to fill up the oil drums and stuff. And it doesn't take a whole lot of power, so a couple of solar panels is probably all you really need. Now when you destroy this thing, it's going to leave this concrete stuff here. And in the version that we're in, this concrete doesn't despawn or anything, so it's not quite the same as like a frame from a Buildcraft query, so it won't actually despawn. The other thing that we can do with this pump jack is you can, if you have regular Buildcraft oil, you can do the same thing with this. So we have a Buildcraft generated oil, and you can extract this with Buildcraft's pump, or you could use buckets, or there's several ways to extract oil. You can also use the pump jack to get this oil out of the world, and again, because it places with the hammerhead towards you, you're gonna kind of have to leave one side open, and to get the hammerhead into this block, you actually want to place it on that block. So boom, and we got power back here, and we should start seeing some oil in here. Yep. And again, these pipes it will automatically eject into these pipes. And it's going to do the same thing it did with the Magneticraft specific oil. It was going to create this concrete, so as soon as it destroys this block, it's actually going to, I think it does Buildcraft different. I think it actually just once it finds the oil source, it's going to stay just like this until all of the oil is drained, and then it's going to magically disappear. But you can use this to gather Buildcraft oil that's generated in your world, or Magneticraft oil. Either way, it's going to do that. And why did I have a wrench in my hand? I had a wrench in my hand because I wanted to show you it doesn't really do anything in this mod. The wrench doesn't do a whole lot yet. I don't know if he plans on expanding it, and this wrench is Buildcraft compatible, so like your Ender IO and thermal expansion type wrenches and stuff, this wrench will do most of the things that those will do, and those wrenches will work on any machines that this wrench will work on, but nothing that the wrench does for the pump jack yet. So if you have it set the wrong way, the only way to really fix that is to break it and replace it. So there's our pump jack and our oil prospector. And again, this is 250 kilojoules, so you can just stick this in the battery to recharge it. Or you can build one of these Tesla coils, and with a Tesla coil hooked up to your power system of Magneticraft, all of your Magneticraft tools will recharge if you're close to the Tesla coil. So that's an easy way to get some oil out of the world, and then we can move on to the next stage of oil processing in Magneticraft. So thanks everybody for watching, thanks everybody who likes and subscribes, and we'll catch you guys later.